Hello, and welcome to Chloe's Christmas Corner, where each year I read children's Christmas stories. My first story is called Christmas with Rob. He woke suddenly and completely. It was 4 o'clock, the hour at which his father had always called him to get up and help with the milking. Strange how habits of his youth clung to him 50 years ago, and his father had been dead for 30 years. And yet he waked at 4 o'clock in the morning. He had trained himself to turn over and go to sleep, but this morning it was Christmas. He did not try to sleep. Why did he feel so awake tonight? He slipped back in time, as he did so easily nowadays. He was 15 years old and is still on his father's farm. He loved his father. He had not known it until one day, a few days before Christmas, when he had overheard what his father was saying to his mother. "Mary, I hate to call Rob in the mornings. He's growing so fast and he needs his sleep. If you could see how he sleeps when I go in to wake him up. I wish I could manage alone." "Well, you can't, Adam," his mother's voice as brisk. "Besides, he isn't a child anymore. It's time he took his turn." "Yes," his father said slowly, "but I sure do hate to wake him." When he heard these words, something in him spoke. His father loved him. He had never thought of that before, taking for granted the tie of their blood. Neither his father nor his mother talked about loving their children. They had no time for such things. There was always so much to do on the farm. Now that he knew that his father loved him, there would be no loitering in the mornings, and having to be called again, he got up after that, stumbling blindly in his sleep, and pulled on his clothes, shut his eyes, but he got up. Then, on the night before Christmas, that year, when he was 15, he lay for a few minutes, thinking about the next day. They were poor, but the most excitement was in the turkey they had raised themselves and the mince pies his mother made. His sisters sewed presents, and his mother and father always bought something he needed. Not only a warm jacket, maybe, but something more, such as a book. He saved and bought them each something too. He wished that Christmas, when he was 15, that he had a better present for his father. As usual, he had gone to the 10-cent store and bought a tie. It had seemed nice until he lay thinking the night before Christmas. He looked out of the attic window. The stars were bright. "Dad," he had asked when he was a little boy, "what is a stable?" "It's just a barn," his father replied, "like ours." Then Jesus had been born in a barn, and to a barn the shepherds had come. The thought struck him like a silver dagger. Why should he not give his father a special gift too? Out there in the barn, he could get up earlier than 4 o'clock, and he could creep into the barn, get all the milking done. He'd do it all alone, milk and clean up. Then when his father went in to start the milking, he'd see it done, and he would know who had done it. His father laughed to himself as he gazed at the stars. It was what he would do, and he mustn't sleep too sound. He must have waked 20 times, scratching a match each time to look at his old watch. Midnight, and 1:30, and then 2 o'clock. At 3:15, he got up and put on his clothes. He crept downstairs, careful of the creaky boards, and let himself out. The cows looked at him, sleepy and surprised. It was early for them too. He had never milked all alone before, but it seemed almost easy. He kept thinking about his father's surprise. His father would come in and get him, saying that he would get things started while Rob was getting dressed. He'd go to the barn, open the door, and when he'd go to get the 2 big empty milk cans, but they wouldn't be empty or waiting. They would be standing in the milk house, filled. "What the?" he could hear his father exclaiming. He smiled and milked steadily, 2 strong streams rushing into the pail, frothing and fragrant. The task went more easily than he had ever known it to go before. Milking for once was not a chore. It was something else, a gift to his father who loved him. He finished. The 2 milk cans were full, and he covered them and closed the milk house door carefully, making sure of the latch. Back in his room, he only had a minute to pull off his clothes in the dark and jump into bed before he heard his father up. He put the covers over his head to silence his quick breathing. The door opened. "Rob," his father called. "We have to get up, son, even if it is Christmas." "All right," he said sleepily. The door closed and he lay still, laughing to himself. In just a few minutes, his father would know. His dancing heart was ready to jump from his body. The minutes were endless. 10, 15, he did not know how many. And he heard his father's footsteps again. The door opened and he lay still. "Rob." "Yes, Dad?" His father was laughing, a queer sobbing sort of laugh. "Thought you'd fool me, did you?" His father was standing by his bed feeling for him, pulling away the cover. "It's for Christmas, Dad." He found his father and clutched him in a great hug. He felt his father's arms go around him. It was dark and they could not see each other's faces. "Son, I thank you. Nobody ever did a nicer thing." "Oh, Dad, I want you to know I do want to be good." The words broke from him of their own will. He did not know what to say. His heart was bursting with love. He got up and pulled on his clothes again, and they went to the Christmas tree. Oh, what a Christmas! And how his heart nearly burst again with shyness and pride as his father told Rob and made the younger children listen about how he, Rob, got up all by himself. "The best Christmas gift I ever had, and I'll remember it, son, every Christmas year on. Morning so as long as I live." So they had both remembered it, and now that his father was dead, he remembered it alone. That blessing Christmas dawn when alone the cows in the barn, he had made it first gift of true love. The Christmas he wanted to write a card to his wife and tell her how much he loved her. It had been a long time since he had really told her, although he loved her in a very special way, much more than he had ever loved her when they were young. He had been fortunate that she had loved him. Ah, that was the true joy of life, the ability to love. Love was still alive in him. It still was. It occurred to him suddenly that it was alive because of long ago it had been born in him. When he knew his father loved him, that was it. Love alone could be awakened in love, and he could give the gift again and again. This morning, this blessed Christmas morning, he would give it to his beloved wife. He could write it down in a letter for her to read and keep it forever. He went to his desk and began to write his love letter to his wife. "My dearest love, such a happy, happy Christmas." That's the end of my Christmas story. Thank you for listening.